Hey guys, this is Garrett Wong, also known as Ensign Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager, and you're watching Astronomy Live.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stop.
Hi folks, welcome to Astronomy Live. I'm back. Thankfully, today YouTube rescinded the strike that was against my channel. And I am now back and live. So tonight I'm going to be webcasting the moon and processing some video that I captured earlier tonight of the Hubble Space Telescope. Thank you all for joining me. Hope you enjoy these views of the full moon. And I now have a new logo. So hopefully this will prevent problems in the future with not only video theft, but false copyright strikes. Yeah, so I had 3 copyright strikes against my channel, and at that point you cannot upload any videos or live stream or anything. But I've fought those successfully now with counterclaims. The first one was lifted today, and that restored my ability to upload and to live stream. So I want to thank everyone who supported me, and especially Kyle for making this awesome logo, which will now be featured in my videos to help prevent issues in the future. So yeah, nothing too major going on tonight, just going to be watching the moon, taking a look at some craters here, and I'm going to turn on the music and get to work processing some video that I captured earlier of the Hubble Space Telescope tracked with my Sat Tracker software. I should also point out the view is, yeah, it's inverted due to the optical orientation right now of the telescope. The star diagonal that I have on the telescope is inverting the view. But yeah, there's some nice looking craters and ridges there along the southern edge of the moon. Because it is a full moon, there's not much of a terminator to see, but if you look there at the southern edge, you can see it. Obviously, the moon's not quite 100% full, because if it were, we'd be having a total lunar eclipse tonight. But that is a nice view. Alright, I'm going to put on some stellar drone and get to work processing the video. And then once I've got the video stabilized and whatnot, I will share that with you guys here on the stream. So, yeah, I want to give a couple updates. First of all, as Sean Hufford noticed, the telescope's not tracking quite as good as it usually does. That's because it's in altitude azimuth mode. So there's also going to be field rotation. But, to be clear, I'm not going for the counterclockwise rotation tonight. Not the purpose of this stream. The purpose of this stream is mainly to get back on track with live streaming and be able to share with you guys the video I collected of Hubble earlier, once I get that stabilized here, and give some programming updates, like the fact that I can stream again. So, that's always good. So, I also want to talk about the future of the channel. And, some things I plan to do to insulate the channel against future attacks. First of all, as you can see, the logo is prominently displayed. That should definitely help. Red's Rhetoric was talking to me about that. He's had issues in the past too, but YouTube has rejected attempts to take down his videos because he does add logos on all of his videos, so they're very obviously his, and no one else is able to produce the unlogoed original video because he's the only one with the video. So, yeah. Hey, thank you, P1K1W1. Yeah, thing with Altaz, yeah, you need to be perfectly level for it to track in Altaz. Yeah, if you want it to be absolutely perfect, it is bubble leveled, but it's just never quite as good as polar alignment, because you're tracking with the 2 motors instead of 1, so you have essentially overlaid 2 different sources of periodic error into the tracking instead of just 1. It's just never as smooth. Also, the declination gear is not as nice as the right ascension, so yeah, it does not produce as good a tracking, not to mention the fact that you've got field rotation, so you've got multiple sources of problems for just in terms of stable, smooth tracking. Also, I am relatively well magnified with this camera, so any slight source of tracking error is going to show up. But I set up the telescope in Altaz tonight so that I could track Hubble Space Telescope. I could theoretically set up the program to track in polar alignment mode. I've never actually done that. I've got it in there, but I've never actually tested it. Ooh, I should definitely do that at some point, but that wasn't the point. The point of Altaz for satellite tracking with the LX200 is the fact that because you're not on the wedge, the telescope's a lot more stable against vibrations, which is a huge, huge thing when you're tracking a low Earth orbit satellite traveling across the sky at about a degree per second. The motors are moving quite quickly, and you want to minimize vibrations. Got the vibration dampening pads on there, all of that. But if you've got it on the wedge, it's never going to be as stable in terms of vibrations as having it firmly mounted out as. So that gives you less vibrations, produces a better quality video when tracking low Earth orbit satellites. That's why I've got it mounted this way tonight. Thank you, Vesta. I'm glad to be back. So the other thing I'm doing to insulate this channel is I'm developing a website right now. I'm actually building it myself in Django. If anyone knows Python, you've probably heard of Django as a toolkit or set of toolkits for basically doing web apps, deploying Python on the web. And what this is going to do is provide a website not only as a central source for being able to watch my live streams with embedded video, but also provide the ability to control the telescope for audience members to actually take control of the telescope during some of these live streams. So that'll be cool. It will be set up as a Patreon, or maybe if not Patreon, some similar platform, but probably Patreon. I've actually got a Patreon set up, not published yet, but it is set up in case I want to go that way. And the idea is that Patreon members will be able to actually take control of the telescope during these live streams, especially deep space live streams, and tell the telescope what to point at. when doing deep space astrophotography, especially with the adaptive optics unit, which I always want to do. I love using the adaptive optics unit because that makes this telescope punch above its weight. It really makes this telescope sing and get some really nice images. I will have to manually rotate the camera to get a suitable guide star in view, but in terms of where the telescope's going to slew to, that will be decided by you, the viewers. Patreon members will be able to pick targets or even submit their own coordinates, custom coordinates, to the telescope, and there will also be a window showing where the telescope is pointed, where the selected target is relative to the horizon, and if it's above the horizon, you can send it to the telescope for slewing. So that's something I'm developing right now, and I can't wait to get that going and have that available for you guys. The advantage of doing that, and the reason it insulates the channel against attacks, is because it is one centralized source, you can just always look for me there. And even if something should happen to my YouTube again, hopefully, knock on wood, it won't, especially thanks to my new awesome logo, but if something should happen, I should be able to easily and quickly switch it out so that it's the same website, but instead of embedding a video from YouTube, I'm embedding a video from DLive, for example, or some other streaming site, maybe even Twitch, who knows. Doesn't really matter at that point because you're still going to the same website. It's just the video's coming from some other source. It's still coming from me, but through some other website that's providing streaming services. That's all I need right there. So it'll provide a one source to go to with the ability to switch out providers as needed should the channel come under attack. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, but if it does, basically this provides some protection for that. Now, of course, there's going to be hosting costs associated with all of that and whatnot, but that's why I'm hoping to provide for you guys, for the viewers, some added value, an actual product of sorts, a service that you can get your money's worth out of, so that when I'm doing live streams, you guys can take over control, take turns sending commands to the telescope, and viewing whatever you guys want to view. I think that's a pretty good deal. I know a lot of channels out there do Patreon-type deals, but oftentimes it's just like, I don't want to knock anyone, and I'm not naming names, but I'm just saying, like, oftentimes it's, custom private Discord or meetup opportunities, and, maybe that's the way some channels go. Maybe that's good for them, but I think, personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable if that's all I was offering you guys. I want to offer an actual product or something that is actually really going to add value to the kinds of content that you're already getting from this channel, and I think this is the way to go with that. So we'll see how all that goes. There's still a lot of work to be done. You can see the first test render I did of the planetarium program that I built that will go into that site. That's all coded in Python, and I need to expand it some more. I want to expand it some more. We'll see how that goes. The star database it's using right now is just the Yale Bright Star Catalog, which is basically just the visible stars, the stars that are bright enough to see by eye, down to about magnitude 7. The telescope, of course, can see much dimmer stars than that, and even in terms of guide stars for the adaptive optics unit, it can easily use stars that are down to magnitude 10, magnitude 11, no problem. So I'll probably also have it include the Tycho catalog, because what I would like it to do is not only show you where the telescope's pointed, not only show you whether an object is going to be high enough for the telescope to view, but also have it automatically tell me how to orient the camera so that there's going to be a guide star available as soon as the slew is complete. So I just want it to tell me, give me an angle number, just tell me what angle to turn the camera to before the slew completes. Now, I can figure that out manually myself, and that's how I do it right now. I've got an app on my phone. I look and I see, here's what the field of view of the telescope looks like. Here's where the guider is going to be pointing. Here's how I need to orient the camera to get that guide star in there. But I kind of have to play with it, and it just, it adds a little bit of friction there. It'd be really sweet if it were fully automatic, and it just automatically searched for a suitably bright guide star and told me how to turn the camera to find the brightest available guide star. And that's definitely doable. I've got it I kind of have it in my head of how it needs to be programmed to make that happen. the only hurdle there right now is just I have to integrate the Tycho catalog, which is a lot bigger, a whole lot bigger than the Yale Bright Star catalog. It's generally available as a series of multiple files that you have to put together, and so that's going to require a little more effort to do. But yeah, should totally be doable. And then of course there's the whole web integration. That's going to be an interesting project. Like I said, I've already started building it in Django, but it's going to be interesting because there's going to be user memberships, and there's going to be you're going to create an account on the website. I've actually already got that part of it set up. It's ready to go. But the real challenge, of course, is integrating the planetarium program into the website itself. So that's going to be a fun little project. A crater in a crater. Yeah, there's... I hope I didn't pass it. I probably passed whichever one you were looking at there, Sean. I know I moved the telescope just now. And there's craters in that crater at top left. Little craters. I just love the shadows along the edge of the moon here. Really gives you some sense of depth. Yeah, automatic focusing would be nice too. That's way down the line though. Like, yeah, that would be nice, but really the way I tend to do that anyway is with a Batinov mask, so I gotta manually put that on. So there's gonna be manual manipulation going on there anyway, so I might as well just manually focus it. I mean, yeah, it'd be really nice to have a focusing motor, but for me, in terms of trying to do the project as I'm envisioning it now, with user control of the telescope, the biggest thing that I could possibly do is making sure that it just tells me every time we move to a new object, here's how to orient the camera. Just give me the number and let me orient the camera. Go down till you see Tycho, then it'll be on the left side. So, somewhere over here? Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Sean. Yeah, there is a cool crater. They're like, excuse me, concentric craters there. Here, I'll see if I can center it up a bit. There you go. It's pretty close to the center there. So, now let me see. Where did I put... well, that's weird. Why is that there like that? That's strange. Okay. Okay. So one thing I'm gonna do with the Hubble video that I recorded earlier is use it to determine where Hubble was pointing, which is an interesting challenge. You need to know what the actual orientation of your image is, of course. So I took a shot of Regulus and a couple stars next to Regulus to figure out the exact orientation of the camera. I think one thing is the image is inverted because I had the star diagonal on there for sure, and that picture was taken in 2:01 Universal Time, so that was 10:01 local time. Okay. The cow didn't quite make it. Yeah. I saw a Far Side comic one time. It cracked me up. Showing some flaming bones, cow bones on the ground. It says, yeah, the cow made it over the moon, but it didn't talk about re-entry. Alright, let's go look at the Terminator again here. Let's see. See how things look over there. Cool stuff. Some mountains, actually. You can see some of the ridges casting shadows out behind them there, right towards the center. That's pretty cool. Okay, so the thing I'd really like to do is figure out in Python how to get the program to pull the video created date when stabilizing the video and use that to timestamp all the frames in the video. How to get file creation and modification times in Python. Stack Overflow. A programmer's best friend. On Windows, a file's C-time stores its creation date. You can access this in Python through OS path get C-time. Let's try that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have anything too crazy here showing. I can do that. See if I can share some of my code so you can see what I'm doing. I don't know how well it's going to show up, and I don't really necessarily want to block the view of the moon. How do I... Is there a way to, like, crop this? Maybe? Sort of? Maybe not? Scaling? No. Scale filtering? No. Oh, maybe there's not really a way to do that. And... yeah. Nah, you know what? Forget it. Never mind. That was a terrible idea. Nobody wants to see code. We came here for the moon. Ever catch any flying saucers? Can't really say I did. I caught something I didn't expect one time during a solar eclipse, but I'm pretty sure it was some party balloons that were tied together. put it this way, it was a solar eclipse, so there were a lot of other people around the world looking at the sun at the same time. None of them saw it, so it had to be local to me. It had to be close to me. And there was an island out in the out across the bay that I was looking over. So somebody was probably throwing a party and let off some balloons. Who knows? Chances are they weren't even aware there was a solar eclipse going on. But yeah, it was quite shocking when I saw it because I didn't know what it was at first. At first I thought maybe it was a plane, but it was too slow for a plane. And then I realized it didn't quite look like a plane. It was kind of weird, and followed it as it traveled across the sun. But yeah, that's the only time I've ever seen anything unidentified. Oh, I got a super chat for $2.02 from 0132132. Thank you. The moon is BS. Stars too. Nothing to see up there. Well, I don't know. We'll see. NASA's currently putting out bids to compete to build a lunar lander, and SpaceX is busy building Starship. They've actually set up a competing construction project in Cocoa, Florida, where they've got another steel company there building one of their prototype starships at the same time that they're building one in Boca Chica, Texas. So we'll see. They seem to be competing one company off the other to see which one does it best. And they're going to be building mini starships, according to Elon Musk. Eventually, those will be capable of potentially going and landing on the moon in terms of the amount of fuel they'll have. They can be refueled in flight, at least that's the way it will be eventually. And the idea is you get one of them into orbit, and then you send up fuel tankers across multiple flights to fill the tanks back up after it's already in orbit, and then it'll have enough fuel to go to the moon and come back. And actually bring a pretty hefty payload there, too. So to me, that's pretty exciting, the idea of having a rocket and a lander that could be reused for going to the moon and back. Alright, getting back on course with stabilizing the Hubble video. Let's see here, where was that command? OS path get C time. Make sure I've imported OS. Yep. Huh. Some spiders trying to make a web right over me. Huh. Just saw this spider web drifting across my eyes. Okay, let's see. Okay, how do you use this exactly? What's it expecting? I guess it's just expecting the path. Okay. Well, let's give it that. Okay. And I'm assuming this will be... What is it going to give me? A time? Let's import date time. I know you guys can't see it, but I'm coding up an additional feature for my video stabilization. The idea being that it will pull the date time of the video start point and then timestamp that onto all the video frames. Can you really call them starships if they only go to the moon? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the name either, unless he's going interstellar with it, but pretty sure at best it's interplanetary. So, planet ships, I guess. I don't know. Hey, starship sounds cool. Sounds like Star Trek level stuff, right? So, whatever, as long as it's cool. Why not launch the refueler first, then launch the spacecraft? Well, they might, for all I know, but my understanding is that they will actually have to refuel the vehicle multiple times. What I think might actually happen, and this is just my pure speculation, this isn't really how they've depicted it from what I've seen, is that they will do kind of what you said. They will put a tanker into orbit. Getting it into orbit, it will use up most of its fuel. And so the idea that they've been showing is the idea of refueling it through multiple flights. The tanker comes up, refuels it a little bit, comes back down. Tanker gets refueled, comes up, refuels it a little bit, comes back down. And they just keep repeating that until they get it fully fueled. What I think might happen is that process will occur between two tankers. You'll have a tanker already in orbit. You'll have a tanker that is refueling the tanker that's already in orbit. And once that tanker in orbit is full, then you launch your manned vehicle to rendezvous with the tanker, refuel all in one go, and then go to the moon. One of the catches is they are using liquid oxygen. It's Methalox engine, the Raptor. But the liquid oxygen, that will boil off gradually over time, I believe. So I don't know how long they can really keep a fully fueled tanker on orbit before they start losing fuel and eventually have to launch a new tanker. I'm sure they'll figure all that out, and they'll know like how long they can store it on orbit before boil off becomes an issue. But I do kind of think that might be the way to go with it, is get a tanker that's already on orbit fully fueled and have your manned vehicle rendezvous with that, so that you don't have people just waiting around in orbit while they're gradually getting refueled. But who knows, maybe there's a reason they can't do it that way. How do I code with an IDE that's bright white at night? That's a good question. I just never have liked IDEs that are very dark. Then again, I'm probably burning holes in my eyeballs right now, so it's probably not a good idea. I wonder if there's a way... This is Genie. I don't know if there's a way to customize Genie to go into some dark color mode. I've personally never liked that, but... Change color scheme, yeah. Let's see here. Dark colors. Oof. Darkula. Okay, that changes it there, but not... It only changes the middle of it. That's kind of worthless. And I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't know. Okay, so let's see, get seed time. I don't know if this is going to pull that time of the file creation as like a date time object. Probably not. I'm guessing it pulls it as a string. Get seed time returns the system's C time, which on some systems is the time of the last metadata change, and on others, like Windows, is the time creation time for path. Return value is a number giving the number of seconds since the epoch. C time module raise OS error if file does not exist or is inaccessible. Ah, okay, so it's number of seconds from epoch. What is the epoch? I mean, what is the actual epoch? Is it year 2000? For Unix, epoch is 1970. On January 1st of that year at 0 hours time, the time since the epoch is 0. Why do they gotta make it so complicated? Okay, is there a way to... I'm sure there's gotta be a way to just convert epoch number straight into date time object. Epoch to date time, Python. Yeah, I'm not a professional programmer, entirely self-taught, so Google is my friend. Ah, date time from timestamp. But the thing is... Okay. Well, I can handle that. The date time UTC from timestamp. Yeah. Is it going to... I guess I'll find out real quick, won't I? I wonder if it's going to assume the time zone of the date timestamp on that file creation date. Because... No, I guess... Oh, that's funny. It knows it was created at 9:52, which is actually correct for local time. Because my camera's... That's so weird. My camera's set to universal time. But on Windows, it shows up as local time. I must have set the time zone on the camera to universal time, so it knows. That's what I must have done. Anyway. So that's cool. I don't have to worry about some weirdness with time zone stuff then. And I just want to pull out... Give me date time. UTC from timestamp. Sure. And then the timestamp will be... that? Will that work? I guess we'll find out. Let's call this start time equals that. Hopefully that doesn't throw an error. Save this as a new version of my video stabilization. Okay, next step. I also want it to embed the altitude and azimuth of Hubble. In the video. I think that would be cool. That'd be nifty neato. And helpful. So I'm going to... I've already got that. Let's pull MUtils in there if I don't have it already. I'm surprised I don't. Okay. So that's the start time. We know we can pull the frames per second from the capture itself. We got that. So, okay. I'll need to increment the time with every frame. That's fine. That's easy enough. But I also need to get the actual position of the satellite, which is maybe easy-ish. I can pull that out of my satellite tracking program in theory if I can find where that is. Because I've already done the homework on that. So, okay, observer. Where's the observer object created? Here we go. Yeah, I can't show this. I don't want to give away my home's address. No thanks. Let's find... Okay, there is the config file. That shows my latitude and longitude. Cool, I'll need that. I'm just going to bake that into the program for now. Eventually I'd want to abstract that out so I can change it on the fly, but for now, we'll just bake that in there. Okay. Then, let's see, where... shoot, I scrolled away from the observer object. Okay, observer, lat, long, elevation, pressure, fine. Observer is a fem dot observer. Oops. Didn't mean to paste, I meant to copy. Copy that. Paste that. Observer.lat is this. Observer.long is this. On. Observer elevation. 0 meters. We're going to call this sea level, which Florida basically is. Pressure 1013 millibars. Okay. So that sets up the observer object, but we also have to have the observer time. Satellite TLE. Okay, so this is the part where I read the TLE file. That's the three-line elements file that contains the orbital elements of the satellite. Ooh, chilly breeze just now. Okay. So we're going to open up the file, and again, I'm just going to bake the file name into the code, just because I'm lazy and that's easy. Can fix that later. Okay. And then it will read the elements. Okay, so sat track. Compute observer. Okay. So I need to update the observer date and time. Observer date. Here we go. It's going to be that date time object plus time delta. Right. So we're just going to initialize the observer date based on start time. And then time delta 0. Fine. And then at the end of each loop, we will update the time. Observer date time. We need to get the frames per second, so we've got that. Okay, so in that case, does time delta require integers in Python? I don't know. Because if I just tell it, okay, seconds will equal FPS times frame number. The question is, will that actually work? With my luck, probably not. It's probably got to be an integer. In which case, I guess I got to go to milliseconds or something. But I don't know, maybe. So we'll update the observer date at the start of each loop, and then update the frame number. So the initial frame will be 0. So the time delta will be 0 because the very first frame will be the start time. Frames per second. Oh wait, it's not frames per second times frame number. Duh. It's frame number divided by frames per second to get seconds. There we go. Alright, so that will equal time delta seconds. Question is, okay, so, yeah, UTC from timestamp. That theoretically should work. Alright, and then the last step, compute the satellite's position. We've already created the satellite object from the orbital elements. So we will then compute the satellite's position. We will then pull the altitude and azimuth from the resulting calculation. It's going to be in radians. We'll convert that to degrees before we print it and bake it into the frame. Okay, so that's good. So I think the last thing I need to do is actually generate the frames. So we need to bake in observer date. Let's see. Oh, good night, Sean. I guess he already took off. Do I ever get any good shots of Saturn? Yeah, I do. Actually, where is Saturn right now? Not up. Jupiter is available. Saturn doesn't rise until closer to midnight. Yeah, probably not going to be able to get on Saturn tonight. But Jupiter is rising now. Maybe before the webcast ends I can get on Jupiter. I'm not going to count on it, but possibly. Ooh, Vesta's quite the programmer. 35 years of programming. Wow, I bow to your superior capabilities then. 25 years of owning a small software hardware consulting firm. Very cool. Oh, I guess Vesta took off. Sorry, I'm just now getting caught up on the chat. Trying to manage the chat and get the programming going on as well. Always wish there was an app that named what planet or star you were looking at. I mean, there are, kind of, on your phone. You know, you can get apps that will use the accelerometers on the phone to show you what you're looking at. Those are quite popular. I use Sky Safari Pro. It's got a lot more tools on it that I can use at the telescope to figure out which galaxies exactly I'm looking at. It's more advanced than what your average person needs, but for me, I need that kind of power. If actual Jupiter is rising, can we see Donnie of Daytona's Jupiter instead? Oh boy. Oh boy. You know, I was just watching that video earlier from Logicked. He did a really good job debunking Donnie of Daytona. I don't know if I want to make yet another enemy, because I heard that Donnie of Daytona was trying to get people to false flag Logick's channel and get his channel taken down. They're not going to have any luck, but I'm a smaller channel, so I could be an easier target maybe if he gets his trolls coming after me. I don't know. He seemed to think he was an easy target because Logic was coming after him, and all Logic was doing was just explaining where he was wrong, which is just about everything. But yeah, I mean, if Jupiter gets up high enough before I end the stream, then where I can see it, then I can show you what Donnie of Daytona was doing. Although Donnie is not using a catadioptric like I am. This is a Schmidt-Cassegrain 8-inch LX200. So when I put Jupiter out of focus, you'll see it looks like a donut. You'll get a hole in the middle there's an actual hole in the mirror of the telescope. You heard he retracted that? Oh, he called off his attack dogs trying to get Logic's channel taken down. That was never going to succeed anyway. Okay, so let's see here. How do I want to do this? Let's see. So I think there's a Hershey complex font in OpenCV. Is that right? I think that's right. I don't think I've defined a font in this program because I haven't really set it to write anything text-wise on the images before. So we'll say font equals CV2 Hershey. I don't want simplex. Let's do complex. It'll look a little nicer. And then let's do this. We'll just do simple white text over the image. This is going to be on top of the stabilized frame after stabilization. And the first thing we're going to print is the date. So that's going to be observer.date. And we'll put that out as a string. Hopefully that will let me explicitly declare that as a string. And we'll do this at the top of the image, say 10, thereabouts. Font is font. Sure. Alright, let's see if that works. And then we're going to do more text. We're going to put the satellite's altitude at azimuth. You know what, instead of... I'm going to explicitly send this to degrees instead of radians. Just set out as equal to sat out as in math degrees. Okay. Out. Actually, let's do this. Let's say string altitude plus that. And this is going to be lower in the y-axis. Let's do 50? I don't know. How about 100? 110. And then we'll do 210 on the y-axis. So we'll do top left corner text. It's probably going to run off the corner, off the edges, and I'll have to jiggle with it. But alright, let's see how this works. Okay, this is going to be under sat tracker. Let's open up a command prompt. And let me copy the video. I need to copy the video from videos into sat tracker. And the video file name is, let's see, Python video stabilization. Right object 3 no roll dot py. Man, that file name's way too long. This is going to be mvi underscore 7624 dot mov. And then what's the next argument I need in there? I gotta specify something, I'm sure. Oh, that's right. I'm gonna have to specify. Where is it? The thresholds. Is that the only thing I need to specify is thresholds? Oh, okay. It's just the lower threshold is all I need. Well, okay. Let's say 50. Let's try that. Okay, it's giving me errors, saying cannot stabilize this frame. Maybe that's because there's no bright objects to start with in the video? I don't think that's true. Maybe it's true. Okay, it's true. The satellite wasn't in there initially. But I kind of want to see, or I kind of want to see even if you can't stabilize the frame. Else, I want to see how the text looks and make sure it's doing all of that correctly. Where is the image? Let's just do this to, instead of that, we're going to do it to image 1 color, image 1 color, image 1 color, and then we'll show image 1 color. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, cannot convert float to string. Cannot. Oh. What am I doing there? I see. Okay. No, that's fine. I see what I did there. I need to explicitly make sure that it sees that these are getting converted to strings, not floats. I should have seen that there. Oh, and that needs to be as, not out. And this needs to be as enough. Instead of printing altitude twice, that's stupid. Why would I do that? It needs to be as. It needs to be string. That needs to be string. Okay. Try that. Let's see if this does not generate errors. Alright. It's not generating errors per se, but it's also not showing me an image. It's just gray. Why is it doing that? Oh, I didn't have wait key in place. I need to have wait key. Okay. Now I see. Why does it think altitude is negative 81? Oh, it's kind of got the wrong time shown. I can kind of tell, but it's running off the end of the frame. Also, Hershey complex looks kind of terrible. I don't know. Maybe if I take the line thickness down a bit, it won't look quite so bad. Okay, let's do 0.5 on the font size there. 0.5, 0.5. And let's reduce the spacing between them. Let's say 30, 60, 90. Let's try that. That's better. Okay. Now, the time zone thing is off, which is why it thinks it's way below the horizon. It's off by several hours. Even the minutes doesn't look right. That's weird. Something's very strange there. Okay. So... let me print start time. What is it thinking the start time is? It thinks the start time was 4:25 and 37. That's not right. And if I look at the... oh, you know what? I wonder if it's because I copied the file? That's what it is. Darn. The date created changed on it because I copied the file. Hey. Created. Oh yeah. Date and date created are different. Okay, so the date is correct on it, but the date created is just where it was copied on. So date created is where it was copied off the memory card or something. Or copied in directories, something. So, date modified. That looks like the end time. Media created. Let's see if I can pull that from the metadata, maybe. Python file created time metadata video. Somebody's got to have figured out how to do that. Media created date, not file created date. Yes. Stack Overflow is not file system metadata. Windows Shell gets this value as metadata from within the file itself. It's accessible in the API as a Windows property. You can easily access the Windows Shell properties if you're using Windows Vista or later and have the Python extensions for Windows installed. Okay. How do you... I guess it's a pip install, hopefully. PyWin32. I remember PyWin32. Did I already do PyWin? How do you install PyWin32? Hopefully it's a standard thingy. Yeah, it's a pretty standard thingy. From the look of it. Pip install PyWin32. let's try that. Pi Win32. Because I want it to pull the date and time from the metadata of the video, not just the Windows file creation date. Okay, I've already installed that. That's good. I thought that looked familiar. Okay, so just call let's just take this from win32com.propsys. Media date encoded. Ah ha ha ha. Very cool. Alright, so that's how you get that. DT. Get value from timestamp. Let's try DT. Let's see if that works. Nope. What's this? The system cannot find the file specified. Why is it not saying the file specified? It's right there. It hasn't moved. Maybe I have to specify the full path. Try that. Why aren't you displaying that as a string? I don't get it. Huh? What are you doing? What are you doing? Weird. Is it not? It's weird, I'm getting... it's like I've accidentally gone and goofed something up with the parentheses. It's looking for... what? Why is it doing that? Okay. That was okay there. But it wasn't okay with me doing this. Okay, it's okay with that. Weird. I don't know how that got so goofy. But that seems to be okay. Okay. So I'm specifying full path. Oh, something about that is making it think. What? I don't know. Yeah, it's not good. Parameter is incorrect. Okay. Doesn't like that, does it? It thinks that's a literal. No, that's not a literal. Parameter is incorrect. Okay. What's going on here? Why does it not like me? It don't like me. Alright, let's find out what this function actually is expecting to find. Path string. I mean, it's weird. It shouldn't be an issue. It should just work. I don't know. System cannot find the file specified. Let me just manually bake it in. I doubt that will help, but we'll give it a shot anyway. System cannot find the file specified. Okay, that's what I thought. It had no change, no effect, nothing. Why can it not find the file specified? Yeah, maybe I need to... Okay. Let's try this. No, it doesn't like that either. Oh. Maybe that's the issue. No, that didn't help. It still thinks that's some kind of literal thing. Let's see what you're actually generating there. What are you doing? Parameter is incorrect. Parameter is incorrect. Incorrect. Okay. Weird. Integer is required. Okay. Alright. We got past that. So, okay. Alright, so I had to specify it as... Oh, shoot. Didn't mean to do that. Oh, wow. Okay, so... Weird. Alright, it gives me the metadata now. The format's a little weird, but I had to specify the string as like this R string, like a exact string. I forget what they call that, but and I had to specify it as a separate variable for some reason. I couldn't specify it within the function call. It's strange. Date time. DT. Let's see if it'll just take it like that. Probably not. No. DTime. How do I do it? I need to do a DTime object. Well, first of all, I gotta edit DT a bit here because it's got this weird +00:00 after the date and time, which I don't need. See, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. DT will take a slice of that to 19. Oh. It's a PyWin type state time object. Well, fine. this as a string. Can I turn it into a string? Yes, I can. Okay. Good. Now I just need to specify date time. Actually, I wonder if I can just specify observer.date at that point. Probably not. Yeah, it's not callable. Okay. Yeah, didn't need to do a fim.date. Okay. Then it's not a date time object, so you can't use regular date time delta. Okay. So, hey, Red. Good to see you. Let's see. I don't know why Python datetime objects and PyFM datetime objects have to all be so complicated and different and okay, datetime. That's what I'm looking for. STRP time. Alright, so I gotta get it that way. Is gonna be that DT. The format is gonna be where's the format? Okay, so here we go. Yeah. How do you do this exactly? Percent lowercase m. Days. Percent d. And then it's hour. Percent h. Capital M. Capital S. Okay, let's see if that worked. There we go. Much better. So, yeah, that looks correct. Altitude and azimuth. I started the video right around 10 degrees. Hooray, it's stabilizing. It's working on it now. So I'm working on stabilizing the Hubble Space Telescope footage, and it's also baking in the date, time, altitude, and azimuth into the video so that we can do some analysis of it and hopefully verify the direction that the Hubble Space Telescope was actually pointing at the time. Cool beans. Well, this will be handy in the future too, because it pulls the start time for the video directly from the metadata of the video. And it also allows me to bake in the altitude and azimuth of the satellite based on its orbital elements. So once that's done processing, I'll share it on the stream. Yumero says you just caught the ISS at the side of the moon. Did you see it on the stream? I didn't happen to check for ISS transits tonight. I didn't think there were going to be any. There were a couple of ISS passes that were low earlier, but maybe? I don't know. It'd be cool if I caught that on stream. Could be some other satellite too. I could not see any shape, just a dot of light. Need more power. Could have been another satellite, possibly. Geist view. See those waves? That's a dirty hologram lens. We could cause the NASA. Well, there is dust on the CCD. I blew it off a bit, so it's not as bad as it was when I first fired it up. But there are some little donuts there from dust on the CCD. Let's look for Aristarchus crater. There it is. That's always a fun one. Stands out nice. Alright, I'm gonna go grab a drink real quick, and I'll be back. In the meantime, I'll turn on the music again. Alright, I'm back. So, got the stabilization running. And hopefully in just a few minutes we'll have the processed video of the Hubble Space Telescope that I shot earlier tonight. I also had to get a jacket. I'm surprised. I'm a little chilly out here. Of course, my idea of chilly is probably a heat wave to people further up north, but it's a nice clear night. Moon's just transiting the local meridian here now. Thereabouts. So it's going to be the highest it's going to be for the night. Ooh, I like the shadow coming off that ridge there. It's pretty cool. We got another ridge sticking up into sunlight further up. Kind of looks like it's hanging out by itself. Oh, you still got snow there, Marvel Girl? Well, you dropped your iced tea, Amaro, but I managed to destroy an HDMI cable while I was tracking Hubble. It wasn't as long as my old cable, which also got destroyed by accident while in transit. Well, tonight I destroyed a cable because the telescope actually yanked it so hard it bent the cable, like at the connector, and wrecked it. That was my fault for using a short, stubby cable, but I tried to get the monitor that I hooked it up to as close to the camera as possible so that it wouldn't pull on it. Well, it wasn't good enough, apparently, and it did pull on it, and it wrecked it. So, I sacrificed a cable tonight for Hubble. Fortunately, I don't think it damaged the camera, but it definitely damaged the cable. So, note to self, buy a longer cable. Do I think we will really go back to the moon? I do. I don't know what form that will take or who it will be, but SpaceX is definitely dedicated to building their Starship. Partly that, I think, is a response to Blue Origin and the New Glenn rocket that they're developing. It still hasn't flown yet. They're building the engines, they're still testing the engines. They still got a ways to go, but Blue Origin is going to be launching reusable rockets similar to SpaceX, but more powerful than the SpaceX Falcon 9. So, in order to compete, I think they are building Starship to ensure their own future. Because Starship will be a pretty stiff competition. If it works, it'll be a pretty stiff competition for Blue Origin. The thing about Blue Origin is the New Glenn rocket is more akin to the lifting capability of a Falcon Heavy, but without the complexity of 3 separate boosters. It's one single big booster. And Starship is like another step up from that. Both Starship and Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket run on methane as the fuel and liquid oxygen as the oxidizer. But SpaceX plans to get to the point where they actually land their big Falcon booster, this Falcon Super Heavy, this booster for the Starship, they plan to land that back on its launch clamps at the launch site, further simplifying the idea of being able to quickly reuse these things. So that would drive down costs and keep them in the lead. Just heard something go into a trash can. I bet you $10 that was a raccoon. I think the raccoons are accessing my neighbor's trash cans tonight. Bezos had a secret meeting with the media last Thursday showcasing their plans to return. Yeah, Bezos is also designing a lunar lander. For those who don't know, Jeff Bezos is the CEO of Amazon and also the CEO of Blue Origin. So he's got tons of money, and he's pouring it into Blue Origin. And he can keep pouring it into Blue Origin all day. Yep, raccoons. Neighbor's trash can. They're having a field day with it right now. And yeah, I think the lander looks pretty cool. Elon Musk had some snarky tweets about it, but it's all in good fun. And NASA says we're going to the moon. Yep, let me prove that comment. NASA's basically asking for commercial companies to compete to build the next lunar lander. NASA is developing the Orion module, or the Orion capsule, as a deep space capsule to bring astronauts back to the moon, but they don't have a lander yet for it. It's just the command module. They're talking about building a lunar gateway, basically a space station in a halo orbit around the moon. But they still need a lunar lander. Even if they put a space station around the moon, they still need some way to go from that station down to the moon's surface. So they're asking for bids from companies like Blue Origin. SpaceX is also competing for the idea of landing people back on the moon. The interesting thing about SpaceX competing for this is that the SpaceX strategy has not been to use the Orion capsule or the SLS rocket. No, they're building their own rocket, a reusable rocket. Basically a reusable super heavy lift. And the NASA strategy is to use an expendable rocket, the SLS. Now, the SLS was basically designed and proposed, and work started on it before SpaceX had really demonstrated their utility and the possibility of reusing rockets like they have. In the modern era now, though, in 2019, expendable super heavy rockets don't make a whole lot of sense to me, personally, when you can reuse rockets again and again. And SpaceX, their Falcon 9 rocket, I mean, they've started reusing this thing more than twice now, and they're gonna keep reusing these boosters, their first stages. And they're looking for the same strategy with the Starship. Super Heavy, Falcon Super Heavy, and Starship, this BFR booster. There's multiple names for this thing, but it's this, single stick, really big, heavy booster to compete with Blue Origin's. And the interesting thing is, yeah, Blue Origin's competing to build a lunar lander, but they're also building their own rocket. Now, for the purposes of NASA's saying, well, we'll launch the lander ourselves on the SLS. That's great and everything, but are they really going to keep using SLS, 10 years down the line when Starship's operating and Blue Origin's New Glenn is operating, and there's multiple options for a reusable vehicle that can lift this stuff? I don't see a world in which SLS has much of a market if those things actually succeed. Now, if Starship fails and Blue Origin fails to build New Glenn, then yes, obviously we need SLS. But I don't see that as being very likely. At least one of those companies, I think, is going to succeed in building a reusable super heavy lift vehicle. Now, you could make the case that New Glenn isn't really heavy enough. It's not quite at Starship level, / Super Falcon Super Heavy level. But they're planning an even bigger booster. They haven't really talked about it much, but they're talking about the new Armstrong. as the successor to New Glenn, and that would go toe-to-toe with Falcon Super Heavy, Starship, SLS, all the rest. So you have two companies that are very serious about building reusable super heavy lift vehicles in the future. Once that starts happening, who's going to want to spend, what taxpayer is going to want to spend $1 billion+ per rocket where it's thrown away, nothing gets reused, and you have to build a whole new one each time, when you could just go fly on a Blue Origin vehicle or a SpaceX vehicle that can send stuff to the moon and then come back and be reused. I don't know about Blue Origin's lander, but their booster certainly. And the same for SpaceX, their Falcon Super Heavy booster, and Starship, their second stage / potential lunar lander. But I don't think that's the lander they're talking about when they talk about competing for Blue Origin's contract or the NASA contract. Starship obviously is not going to fly on SLS. That's not going to happen. So what are they really talking about? Are they talking about designing, an Apollo-style lunar lander that's expendable, even? Some people have, wondered about, trying to modify a Crew Dragon to become a lunar lander. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, at least the way Crew Dragon looks right now. It's got a heat shield, and it's a capsule design that's designed to be able to re-enter the atmosphere. And so the Super Draco engines that you might be able to use to land on the moon are canted at an odd angle. It doesn't have nearly enough fuel to land on the moon and then come back off the moon. It doesn't even have enough fuel to land on the moon in the first place, because there's no atmosphere. They were talking about landing it on Mars, but the thing about Mars is it's got an atmosphere that you can use to slow down. The moon really doesn't have an atmosphere to speak of, so you can't aerobrake. You have to use your engines to slow down. So, yeah, it's questionable as to what they're really planning. I don't know if they got some trick up their sleeve or something else they're secretly designing right now. But, maybe they're just going to try to make the case that NASA should buy rides on Falcon Super Heavy / Starship and forget about SLS. I don't know if NASA's really going to want to go for that. NASA's already got a ton invested in SLS, and they want to use it to send people back to the moon by 2024. I don't know that that date's really going to be met. That's a pretty aggressive date. There's a rustling around over there. That's a pretty aggressive timetable. And, it's going to require increases in budget to make it happen, if it's possible at all. SLS still hasn't flown, but then again, neither is Falcon Super Heavy or New Glenn or New Armstrong, let alone New Armstrong. So all of these things are still on the drawing board, and you're talking about trying to land people on the moon in 5 years. It's pretty tough. It's not impossible. Apollo's proven it is possible, but that's pretty tall order. Apollo had a blank check, basically. They spent as much money as they needed to make it happen. NASA doesn't have that luxury these days. NASA's budget is much smaller than it used to be as a percentage of the GDP, or as a percentage of the federal budget. It's quite small, less than 1% of the federal budget. So I don't see them really having the resources to supercharge either Blue Origin or SpaceX's efforts to build a super heavy rocket. So they are, looking at using SLS to do this. And SLS is its own set of issues. It keeps getting delayed. I think it got delayed again. I don't know. It keeps getting delayed. And I think they're talking about it slipping into its first flight slipping into 2021. We're talking the first unmanned flight, not even a manned flight yet. So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges to overcome. Is it possible? Yes, it's still possible, I think. But I'm really skeptical that it happens by 2024. I know Trump wants it to happen by 2024 for obvious reasons. If he's re-elected for a second term, that puts it in range of his second term, so it can't be canceled by the next president. But that's the problem with these programs. It's every time there's a new president, if it switches parties, it gets canceled, and then something else comes up. Now, SLS has been around for a while. It's survived presidents so far, but I don't see it surviving Blue Origin or SpaceX in the future. And that's going to result in a very big paradigm shift in how we get to the moon. So it'll happen eventually, I think. And in the end, I think it'll be beneficial because it'll happen with a commercial vehicle that can be reused. But we still got a ways to go for that. Alright, I'm going to turn the music back on for a bit, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Alright, folks. So, hope some of you are able to stick around. Cool, looks like we got a couple dozen viewers still. So, I finally have the stabilized video of Hubble. It's done. So, let me load up. Let's see, media source. Hubble video. Oh dear. Ah! You mean to tell me it can't do that? Oh. Oh. You kill me. Okay, so it can't play that kind of video. Ugh. Alright, I'll figure it out. What kind of video can it play? Video files. MP4, MOV, AVI, but not WMV. Okay. That's fine. Alright, well, give me a minute here. Let me, what's the fastest way to do this? Well, okay, fastest way is to just code up another OpenCV program real fast. Well, I just need import CV2. Do I need system for this? I don't know. Maybe. I guess so, because I need arg parse, or I need system arguments. Cap is going to be that. Input name, output name with type FPS. That. I need all that. And then while ret is true. Okay, let's save this as video convert .py. Oh, I already had a program named video convert. Really? Okay. It's just going to be cap. Okay, red. Color, and then it's going to be outright. So it's going to read the frame, it's going to write the frame, and then when it's done, when it reaches the end of all frames, it releases the video and exits the program. Alright. Now let's see. MP4. It's going to be MP4 file. P4V. 1919 Hubble dot WMV. Shoot. Okay, it's going to be video convert to pi. Yeah, hang on. Okay. Alright, so I'm converting the video real quick. Thanks, True Blue. Yeah, it's good to be back. They lifted the strike against my channel because, hey, it's my footage after all, and I filed a counterclaim, and thanks to Rob Reed's service, I'm back in action. Yeah, Kyle of the Non Sequitur Show did create my logo, and I want to thank him because it's an awesome logo, and this is going to protect my footage, so... and my channel. Let's see. Is it not running? Why is it not running yet? What's it waiting for? It hasn't, it's supposed to tell me when it's... supposed to tell me when it's generating frames for the converted video, but I haven't seen it yet. Oh, it's generated the file name, but nothing's happening. Okay, I'm gonna break it. Oh. I guess it was generating video. But something got goofy. Something about that didn't work with the printing. Just the print statement didn't work for some reason. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, now it's working. Well, I should have just let it run. But I want to see what kind of progress it's making. Okay, so we just have to wait for it to convert it to an MP4 file. Because I foolishly had it saved as WMV, which OBS doesn't seem to know how to open. Hooray. But I did take a look at it on Windows Media or Windows Video, whatever, and it looks good. Towards the end of the pass, you can definitely see the shape of Hubble's optical tube as an elongated shape. And that should allow me to determine its actual pointing orientation. Oh, that's not right. I'm trying to play that video. That's not right. No, I don't want to share. I clicked the wrong thing. Yeah, I don't want to share. I just want to play it. Getting a little punchy at this hour. There we go. Oh, what happened there? It started to play it and then it closed it. There it goes. Yeah, so initially Hubble is low enough on the horizon that it's just a dot. You can't really see much detail. It doesn't resolve as a shape until it rises higher and the range decreases. I should have printed that in there too. I should have pulled the value for range to target and printed that, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Now I do shake the camera a bit as I adjust the exposure rate early in the video. And you'll see that even with it stabilized, you still get this weird like lightning effect, or it streaks a bit, even though it centers the streak. Within the frame itself, it's streaked. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy with how Sat Tracker's working at keeping the target in the view. You have to keep in mind that I'm using a 2x Barlow on a telescope that has a focal length of 2 meters, so that's an effective focal length of 4 meters. That's more than even a P1000 at max magnification. So it's pretty impressive. But that's the kind of magnification you need if you want to actually resolve Hubble as more than just a dot. If you want to actually start to see its shape and see the orientation of its optical tube, you need extreme magnification. Yeah, right around 49 degrees altitude or so, I can really start to see the shape of Hubble. 53 degrees. This is kind of cool because now I can see, just in the video right away, what the altitude and azimuth were. And about 63 degrees altitude, it went into Earth's shadow. And you can kind of see that in the video. Yeah, around 60, 61, 63 degrees. Yep. It starts to fade out right at the end before it shoots off the screen, I think. Late in the tracking, it shoots out of the screen because it actually lost the lock on the target on the viewfinder camera. Yeah, it was at 64 degrees, and it was starting to decrease in brightness a bit as it approached the terminator and it started to go into Earth's shadow. So the viewfinder camera lost the lock. It probably saw some other distracting star somewhere nearby as well. The tracking box has a certain size to it, and it can get distracted pretty easily if a bright star, sufficiently bright star, comes into view. And I think that might have happened a bit. But that's okay. That wasn't until the very end of the pass anyway, so it didn't really affect anything. That's fantastic. I love it. to my chair. Huh. The armrest of my chair suddenly slid down. Okay, cool. Let's see, how we doing? Okay. We're up to frame 3600. Let's see, how long is that video in total? Properties. 2 minutes, 22 seconds. Where I had Hubble in the field of view of the telescope. Let's see, calculator. So 2 minutes is 120 seconds, so it's 142 seconds total, times 29.97 frames per second. Total of 4,256 frames thereabouts. And we're coming up on frame 4,000 now, converted, so it should be done converting pretty soon. There it goes. It's done. Alright, let's get Hubble on the view. There it is. Alright. There we go. So this is my video of Hubble, recorded earlier tonight, the beginning of the evening. There's a couple hot pixels in there, that's why they're dancing around. Hubble is stabilized, so it's the dot in the middle. And you can see the altitude and azimuth in the top left corner, along with the timestamp, which is in universal time. See, it's rising higher, coming out of the west, and I guess about to 63, 64 degrees, that's when it starts to fade out, and you'll see it shoot out of the view. Well, it's stabilized, so the edge of the view actually shoots towards it, and then it leaves the view. But yeah, you can see me jiggling it there. That's where I adjusted the exposure of the camera, decreased the exposure time, increase the shutter speed basically to reduce the brightness of Hubble, and the view is overexposed a little bit, so I made it shorter exposure. And now you can see that optical tube. You can actually see it's an elongated shape. It's not just a dot now, it's actually sort of a tube, and that's the optical tube of the Hubble Space Telescope. We can actually see the direction it's pointing in the view. And so I also took a picture of the stars for reference to be able to make sure I knew exactly the way the camera is oriented, and later on I'll be able to verify the exact pointing direction of Hubble. So yeah, you can see Hubble Space Telescope resolved by my telescope. And there's some field rotation there, of course, as Hubble is going from west to east. But there you go, it fades out and then goes in Earth's shadow, and that's the end of the video. Pretty cool, huh? So, we can actually look up what Hubble was scheduled to observe at that time. if you actually just Google Hubble observing schedule, you'll find it pretty quickly. Hubble Space Telescope scheduling of programs, you go there. And then weekly observing schedule, and then you click on access to weekly timeline reports, timelines from this year, and then it takes you to a whole bunch of directories, including timelines for the start of each week. Let's see, this is timeline for 5/12/19, and that's for the week of 5/12/19. So 5/12/19, so SMS start 2019 132, 2019.132, so it should be the 132nd day of the year was May 12th. We are now May 18th. So 132 is May 12th, 133 is May 13th. So we should be at 138. And that was at, let's see, let me look at that video again. Well, heck, I'll just replay it here real quick. So we were at 154 Universal Time up there in the top left. That's in Universal Time. And that's what these schedules are set for, is Universal Time. Very handy. So we can actually look up what Hubble was scheduled to observe at that time. There we go. Okay, let me share this screen. Well, we'll finish watching it here. It's almost to the end of the video anyway. For anyone who missed it earlier, this is a replay of the Hubble Space Telescope that I tracked with my telescope earlier tonight. And you can see the optical tube there for Hubble. So I will have this uploaded as its own separate video later on. I plan to do a proper analysis of its pointing attitude, of Hubble's pointing attitude. 156 Universal Time, and there we go, end of the video. So let me share a window. Where's the other Chrome window? It's not showing up there. Well, okay. All else fails, we will share this not as a browser window. Remove that. We'll just text. Okay, well, we'll do it like this. Fine. Whatever. This'll work. We'll make it work. We can do it. Alright, so... This isn't what I was expecting at all. OBS, you're killing me, man. You're absolutely killing me. So where was it here? It was there. Okay, I can see it there. Where is it? On the scrolly scroll. It's right there. Okay. So, this is the spot. Let me zoom in some more. Bigger. Okay. Right here. So it says 2019.138 from 01:45 and 31 seconds to 01:58 and 30 seconds. The observation was of a target of SDSS RM-840. No. Oh, we're reconnected. Sorry about that. OBS disconnected and said reconnected. I was worried there we might have had an internet outage. I've had a couple of internet outages the last week or two. I was a little nervous there when it disconnected suddenly, but we're back. So, don't know exactly where it cut me off there, but I was just saying, from on 2019, the 138th day of the year, which is today, should be the 138th day of the year. Let me make sure that's true. 138th day of 2019 should be May 18th. I said 138th, not 69th. Google. What do you mean? What is the 69th day? That wasn't the question I asked you. Okay, day numbers for 2019. Let's just look at a calendar. Alright. Day numbers, let's see, 138 is May 18th, correct. Alright, so we are on day 138 of May 18th. So, from 1:45, 31 seconds universal time to 1:58, 30 seconds universal time, an image was being taken of SDSS RM-840 with WFC3, my favorite camera on Hubble. UViz, and it even shows you the filter there, F275W. So, cool beans. What is SDSS RM-840? Well, you can look that up. You can even look up why this particular scientist was asking for that picture to be taken. It's all publicly available. It's a beautiful thing. So, this is straight off of the STSCI website. Let's just Google that. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that researcher's name. I don't want to butcher it. So if I Google his name along with that designation, it takes me right to a website, spacetelscopelive.org. And it looks like he took a picture back in 2018 of that galaxy. Is that the same one? It says, I am looking at Galaxy SDSS RM-840 with wide field camera 3. Oh, it's an old, okay. It's an old page. View the research proposal. Yes, please. So SDSS probably stands for, yeah, Sloan Digital Sky Survey, of course. And yeah, it's a very small, faint galaxy. Oh, and it shows me the RA and deck. SDSS, RM, whole bunch of the RM-840. Okay, cool. 2019. That's much later in the year. Oh, that's the release date. Okay. It doesn't show... Okay, start time. Here we go. Let's see, we're 5:18. There's a whole bunch of images of this galaxy being taken over a course of several days. Trying to find the observation that actually occurred tonight. Oh, well, of course, these are the ones that are already in the database, not the ones that are planned. won't show me the ones that are planned, but it will show me the ones that have already been taken over previous days. The one that it just took tonight, of course, isn't up on the database yet, but it is the same galaxy nevertheless. And it gives me the coordinates. So if I go to here, let me share this page. I'll show you. Let's see, let's turn off that. Alright, let's go to this page. Okay, so this is just the abstract. Okay, I want to see. Here we go. Next, is this the right page? Nope, this is the wrong page. There we go. SRM 840. There you go. So, a whole bunch of these images were taken over the last number of days. And you can see the coordinates in right ascension and declination there. That's what these two columns are here. Oop. Let me just scroll on it. There we go. So you can see right ascension, declination in J2000 format. If you scroll down, there you go. There's the coordinates that Hubble was looking at tonight. Cool beans. So I'm going to plug those into Simbad, which is a website, a database that you can use for looking up object designations, coordinates, even find publications that have been made about various objects in the sky. And you can search by coordinates. So I'm going to search by coordinates, the coordinates it shows there, and see what name it gives in the Simbad database. So SDSS J141645.15 plus 542540.7 is listed in the Simbad database as a quasar. It's also got a Gaia designation. Oh, that's cool. Parallax, radial velocity, proper motion, redshift. Yeah, what's the redshift on that? Z spectroscopic 0.244. And there's been 11 publications on it so far. Cool stuff. So the yellow highlighting in the @ sign indicates that these images haven't been released yet, the ones that have been taken over the last few days. The researcher gets the first crack at it. Whoever proposed to take these images and proposed to study this object gets the first chance to do so. They aren't released until later. The release date's actually listed way over here on this column. So these images will be released sometime in November of this year. So yeah, actually it'd be pretty cool if we keep an eye out for the release of the image that was taken tonight at the time shown in my video, about 150 something universal time on 5/18. It'd be really cool to show a side-by-side, I think, of the Hubble Space Telescope taken through my telescope and the picture that the Hubble Space Telescope was taking while my telescope was taking a picture of the Hubble Space Telescope. I think that'd be pretty cool. So I'll also be able to check and validate the pointing orientation of Hubble and verify that it really was pointed at this object at the time that I was recording it. And so I'm going to do a full breakdown of that in a later video. But yeah, it's pretty cool stuff, huh, guys? So I'm hoping to do live streams of satellite tracking later. But for tonight, it's good that I didn't, because I ended up yanking that cable that was coming out of the camera anyway. And it cut out before it cut out on my external monitor before I even got Hubble in the view, because I destroyed the cable. But fortunately, the camera has its own smaller screen that I was able to use to make sure everything was in focus and the exposure was right and all of that. The nice thing about Sat Tracker is it was pretty much hands-off when I was recording that video. I'm going to play the video one more time of me tracking the Hubble Space Telescope. So here initially it's coming up over the horizon. It's only 21 degrees above the horizon. And at this point the slant range is far enough away that it's just a dot. It's just a faint dot. I think you could actually see, let me play it one more time. I'm going to restart it here. If you look carefully, there's something that streaks through. I think it actually streaked by a background star that you can see shoot through the view there early in the video. Yep, there it went. I just saw it. That's pretty cool. So at this point I'm just watching it and trying to make sure everything's in focus and looking good. And I'm not, manually steering the telescope or anything. It's doing it automatically based on a viewfinder camera, which is looking at Hubble and keeping it centered in the view. So you can actually see it gets a little blurrier there as I focus it. I focus it, and by twisting the focus knob, put it out of view, and then put it out of focus, and then twist it till it's back into focus, make sure it's as sharp as possible. And now we're at 30 degrees altitude, rising a little higher. And I'm just watching it here because I wasn't sure what exposure it would need, so I play with the exposure a bit, which shakes it some more, and that's why it turns these long lines in some of these frames. It just suddenly shakes a whole ton, such that even in a single frame it's streaking around in the view a bit, which is why it turns into a long line shooting sideways in some of these frames. The cord yanking occurred before it was even in view. So right there, that's me adjusting the exposure. That's why it shook so bad, and Hubble suddenly looks dimmer because I actually reduced the exposure length to be able to make sure I'm not overexposing it and be able to sharply see the actual shape of Hubble's optical tube. You can see it elongated there. And so yeah, you get field rotation, but you can see it's baked into the video now, the altitude and azimuth of Hubble throughout the video. So I can actually look at where Hubble was really pointed in space using this data. And there it goes, fading out, and done. Is it true that redshift is increasing? I heard that on a TED Talk a few days ago. I haven't heard that yet. I mean, maybe, but I didn't see that one. I'll have to look that up. That sounds interesting. Is the image a little more narrow at the top than the bottom? Yeah, it did look like the tube was a little more narrow at the top than the bottom, didn't it? Now, Hubble isn't perfect. If you look at pictures of Hubble, like it's a little bit wider on one end of the tube than the other. It might also be, and it's probably more likely, that that effect is from foreshortening of the tube because of how it's pointed. One end of the tube is closer to the telescope, my telescope, than the other end of the tube, and so you get some foreshortening effect there, and it's yeah, you could actually tell it tapered off towards one side. So it's going to be really interesting to see when I do a full analysis of those images and video and see where it's really pointing. Will it be pointing at that particular galaxy that I showed you guys, or were they pointing at somewhere else? We'll find out. That'll be my next video, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to go ahead and start tearing down now here. It's 2:24 a.m., so time for me to get a little bit of sleep. And this weekend I'll work on doing a full analysis of those images and find out where Hubble was really pointed in space. So thank you all for watching. Thank you again for the super chats. Appreciate it. And thank you guys for all your support. Stay tuned for more. Like I said, I'm developing my own site right now for Astronomy Live so that you guys will be able to take over control of the telescope during future deep space webcasts, and be able to point at some objects yourself. And maybe you can, if you want, you can go point at that particular quasar that Hubble was pointing at. Maybe we can get some images of that, although that's pretty dim little object there, off in the distance. Yeah, sheesh. Yeah, that's a really dim one. It's basically infrared only, and even in the infrared bands, it's magnitude 19. Yeah, you really do need the Hubble Space Telescope for that thing. But we could see the stars around it anyway. But yeah, in the future, you guys will be able to plug in your own coordinates of where you want to point my telescope and be able to see things. So, looking forward to deploying that soon, hopefully. Until then, clear skies, folks, and have a good night. Actually, don't leave yet. I got one more thing. I forgot. I totally forgot. Sorry, somebody was talking about looking at planets earlier. Jupiter is up high enough. I can take a look at it real quick before we tear down here. So, hopefully you guys haven't all tuned out yet. Yeah, let's take a quick look at Jupiter before I shut off the stream here. I said that, but actually it's just now coming out of the pine trees. Still, might be good. There we go. So, you might be wondering, what's that weird glow coming out the top and bottom? That is the pine tree. Well, it's diffraction caused by staring through the very top of the pine tree. Oh man, if I were less ethical, I could have a lot of fun with this right now, couldn't I? Jupiter turned into a new sun. It's got a corona. Look, I proved it. Right now, Right now, Donnie of Daytona wishes he was me. That's good. It's a little hazy because it is still in the very top of the tree. But you can see the cloud bands on Jupiter there. Let's zoom in on that with a Barlow lens. Ooh. Yes, we can. Yes, we can have some fun with deliberately defocusing Jupiter here. And you can actually see, okay, first of all, it's a donut, because this is a catadioptric, so it's got a central obstruction. That's why it's not a full circle. You also have some obstruction caused by the very top of the pine tree, which is just now coming out of. I mean, literally just coming out of. So that causes some weird effects there too. But see how it got wavier there? A little bit. Put a heat source near the edge of the telescope. Yeah, there we go. I can create my own atmospheric turbulence by rubbing my hands together to create some friction and then holding it close to the edge of the telescope, causing severe atmospheric distortion very close to the telescope lens. Now, Donnie of Daytona says this is proof that we're actually looking through water in space or some sort of ocean in space. No, actually, I can create that in the air with just my hands and a little heat. So, somebody was asking me about Donnie of Daytona earlier. I don't know if they're still in the stream, but there you go. There's that Jupiter you were asking about, Donnie's Jupiter. Well, you know, for still coming out of a pine tree and having a lot of dust on the Barlow lens, sorry about that. It's not a half bad view, huh? Let's see a fair bit of detail there. And we got 2 moons of Jupiter sitting right next to it. Let's see if I can look up real quick. Which moons do we have there next to Jupiter? And again, I believe this view is going to be inverted. Yep. So right next to Jupiter, the one that's very close to it, is Ganymede. The one that's slightly further away is Io. And later tonight, Io will be casting a shadow across Jupiter and transiting across Jupiter. That's pretty cool. But not until much later. Great red spot is not facing us right now, also. So, not quite lucky enough on the timing there, but nevertheless, that's not a half bad view of Jupiter. Will I be able to spot the asteroid that's supposed to pass us on the 20th of this month? Maybe? I don't know. How bright is it? How close is it is perhaps the better question. How close is close? Because actually, the closer, the better for me to be able to track it. So 2019 JL3 is only going to be it's 2.5 times the distance to the moon, 37 meters in diameter. 37 meters, maybe. It's not that close, really. That's still pretty far away. If it were less than the distance to the moon, then yes, I could definitely track it. But at that distance, it's kind of iffy. Paul Ward asks how we're able to get so close in. I've got a 2x Barlow on the scope, and that's why. So this is a 4 meter effective focal length right here. Yeah, 5,500 feet length. Sounds like somebody was confusing the much larger asteroid 66391. What's the name of that one? I forgot the name of it. 1999 KW4, which is going to be passing at 13.5 times the distance to the moon on May 25th. That one is much bigger, much faster, traveling at a relative velocity of 21.5 kilometers per second, and I could definitely track that one. That's no problem. That one, that sounds about right in terms of the size. I mean, it's 1,780 meters diameter, roughly. So that one I could potentially track, although actually it's coming from the direction of the sun. Not as easy. I think I did look this up. It is possible, but it's not easy. I'd have to get there. It wouldn't be available all night. It would be like, you know, sunset or something. It was either sunset or sunrise, and it was a pretty short viewing window. Theoretically, I could do it, but it's not going to be the greatest. Yeah, 58,000 miles per hour. I don't know what that is in miles per hour, but 21.5 kilometers per second. Let's see, 3 times. That's about 3 times orbital velocity of Earth. Orbital velocity around Earth, 7 point whatever kilometers per second. Was it 17,000 miles an hour, something like that? Yeah, 51. I'm figuring somewhere in the 50,000s of a mile per hour. So yeah, that's about right, 58,000 miles per hour. They must have been talking about that one. That's May 25th. Thanks, Maeve. Yeah, that's the logo was a gift from Kyle. I know it's a bit big, but I could shrink it, but I wanted to make it real obvious. I didn't want anyone stealing my videos. They can't crop that out without ruining the video. So you can even see some variation in the cloud bands of Jupiter here, some storms on Jupiter. Not the black dots from the dust on the Barlow, sorry about that, but no, there's some variations in the density of those cloud bands, just barely visible. It's nice. Can you guys hear me okay? Somebody said the volume was a little low. Well, the scope's fine. It's the Barlow lens that's the problem, and cleaning it not so easy. The outer elements are not the problem. It's the internal elements that are the problem, and taking it apart seems like potentially a one-way deal on that. What I really need to do is write more software to be able to dynamically subtract a flat field image. Excuse me. Yeah, I really need to be able to subtract a flat field image to be able to take out the dust from the image on live video. I'm thinking I could definitely do that, but I'd have to work on that. So the Barlow is a lens that doubles the magnification of the scope. There are Barlow lenses that can triple it or quadruple it maybe, but this is a 2x Barlow, so it doubles the magnification of the scope, or really the effective focal length. The longer the tube of your telescope, the more magnification you'll have, which is good when you're viewing planets like this. In my case, it's a folded optic. It's not just the length of the tube. The light is actually bouncing back and forth between a pair of mirrors inside the telescope, producing effective focal length, as if you had a longer, much longer tube. It's the light path. How far is the light traveling inside the telescope? In my case, the natural light path is about 2 meters long. And this Barlow lens, by doubling the magnification or doubling the focal length, is making it as if it's a tube that's 4 meters long. So higher magnification, longer path length, effectively, for the light. And that's why you can see Jupiter so nice and big. Yeah, those dots are dust, which is why they're not waving or moving with Jupiter. I kind of wonder if I use a different nose piece on the camera, if that will help. Let me try something real quick. No, that didn't really help at all. Okay. Well, it was a thought. Okay, that didn't work so well. trying the focus mask, but really can't see those diffraction spikes very well. Okay, I don't know why my blue snowball stopped working. No audio, that's weird. Okay, well, as I was saying, I'm using an 8-inch LX200 Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope, a Canon, or sorry, not a Canon, a Samsung SDC 435 camera, and a 2X Barlow. So the SCT is a Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. It's a folded optic, catadioptric. It uses a pair of mirrors, and the main mirror has a hole in the middle through which the secondary reflects the light through to get to the camera. Yeah, the 2X Barlow definitely helps make the image of Jupiter much larger and much better in quality. I'm using a 2X Shorty Barlow from Celestron. We call it a Shorty because it is a very short Barlow. There's some Barlows that are really lengthy, and I've got a Shorty Barlow. As the name implies, it's a short little piece, which can be quite helpful. And this is a basically a modified security camera, which has really nice onboard processing of the video for high quality views. especially live views like this. And I've got a C-mount to T-thread adapter, and then a T-thread to 1 1/4 inch adapter for viewing Jupiter. Really don't know why the blue snowball microphone stopped working, but let's see if I could switch back to it. How about now? Okay. Now blue snowball wants to work. It's weird. I don't know why I did that. Alright, well, I think we hit all the high points here. Did pretty much everything we set out to do. Showed you guys the Hubble Space Telescope, showed you guys the moon, and now I've shown you guys Jupiter. It's now 3 a.m. here. So I'm going to be tearing down here shortly. I'm going to turn on the music and start tearing down some secondary equipment, and then once I'm ready for the telescope, I'll turn off the live stream. So thank you guys again for watching, and clear skies, folks. Stay tuned for my follow-up video where I do a breakdown analysis of my Hubble Space Telescope video and do an analysis of the pointing attitude of Hubble during the time I was observing it. So yeah, taking time to get tracking stuff on the mountain working right is definitely worth it. Yeah, absolutely, especially when doing deep space stuff. But even when doing planetary stuff, if I were doing a time lapse of Jupiter tonight, then I would definitely want to be polar aligned, because yikes, with field rotation, I don't like it. I much prefer it when Jupiter doesn't have field rotation in my time lapses. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Clear skies, folks.